Hi guys, welcome back to Conversation with Francesca. Interestingly, yesterday was Mother's Day in North America. So happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful moms out there, to all the moms in waiting, to all pseudo moms out there. Happy Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day. Know that you're doing the best that you can. You're giving all that you can give at this time. I invite you to go watch all episodes on the motherhood series. Jump on it, watch, catch a few things that would help you and just help you navigate motherhood better. Today we're starting a new series. We're jumping into the parenting series, and I've been having conversations with a lot of people regarding that, and few things that they've said. I know some people have said, oh, you know how they have these regular talks when somebody passes by and somebody's like, that person is not supposed to be a mom, or that person shouldn't be parenting a child. They don't have all that it takes to be a parent. So today, I'm going to be talking about parenting. Should everyone be a parent? Should everybody be a parent? The fact that you can birth a child, the fact that you can conceive and give birth to a child, does that make you eligible to parent that child? Today we're just going to be looking at the criteria for what exactly makes up a good parent. What is it? What is the makeup of a good parent? And we're also going to be looking at the Christian perspective. Is it scriptural that believers must be parents? I know how we would all go about and quote. I think it's Genesis chapter 1 where God said, "Go, multiply, be fruitful, and replenish the earth." I hear that, I understand that, but we also remember that on the flip side, Apostle Paul never got married and he never gave birth to a child. So now let's critically examine this topic, being a parent. Should everybody be a parent? Should everybody be a parent? Should everybody actually be a parent? One of the things that I always say that before you jump into parenthood, before you decide that I want to be a parent, you have to ask yourself, do I have what it takes to be a parent? Am I equipped enough to be a parent? What is it that I have learned that makes me qualified to be a parent? Mind you, being a sperm donor or having a womb doesn't qualify you to be a parent. Of course, that I think that's not the criteria for parenting at all. Your genetics, it's not the only thing that qualifies you to be a parent. So the fact that you're a lady, you're a man, parenting generally requires more than your genetic makeup. So I'm a woman, does that mean I have to be a parent? I'm a man, does that mean I have to be a parent? So the fact that I can conceive this child, does it mean that I have to be a parent to that child? Let's look at it. Let me not go ahead of myself too quickly. So parenting in its own self, when you consider parents, how would you define a parent? Who would you call a parent? So I was just thinking about it, and I know that generally the general definition that all of us, or me inclusive, that we're used to is that a parent is somebody that biologically births a child. So boy meets girl, girl gets married, girl gets pregnant, and they had a baby, and suddenly they discover that, oh, now I'm a parent. Another way to be a parent is of course going by adoption. So apart from the biological parent, there is the adoptive parent. So parents that get into that role by adopting a child. So they are not necessarily tied to that child by blood. It's either they are adopting the child either because they are married to one of the parents in some situations, or they've just gone ahead to just adopt a child that has no tie to them, you know. So then there's also that aspect of the legality that comes with that adoption. So there's a legal backend to you being an adoptive parent to that child. Now let's go to the other kind of parent. So there is a third type of parent, which is a non-biological parent. And not, non-biological parents, they are not tied at all, and not even adopted. They're just not tied. No biology links them to the child. They have zero DNA with this child, yet they step in as parent to just parent that child. I know that sometimes people would describe those non-biological parents, if they're not adoptive parents, as pseudo parents. So you're just taking the form of a parent in the life of that child. So take for instance, you see a child that maybe homeless, for example, or a child that does not have a parent figure in their life. They're just on the streets, and you choose to just pick that child up and parent that child. Now you can even be a pseudo parent from afar, so like you're somewhere, and you know that this child needs a parent in their life, and then you step in as a pseudo parent to just do all that you need to do in the life of that child. That's something, that's another area of where people get their parenthood from. Now, whichever form you choose, understand that there are extensive requirements, okay, when you decide to be a parent to a particular child. So you are not just going to say, oh, I'm your parent, and just leave it like that. That's not where it starts, and that's not where it ends. So you cannot just say, oh, I gave birth to child A, then I'm child A parent, I'm this child's parent, and then I leave it there. I do nothing else. There are extensive things that you need, okay, to be able to properly call yourself a parent. We're going to jump into the things that you need to be able to provide for that child in order for you to call yourself a proper parent. One of the few things, or one of the first things that I would say that you need to be able to provide, one of the many criteria that you require to be able to effectively call yourself a parent, is your ability to provide a nurturing and safe environment for that child. Okay? Sometimes people birth children and then they just leave them as they are. They don't provide what it takes for that child to grow up and become a responsible, well-trained, well-brought-up adult. And we have seen in today's world, we see a lot of gaps in people's lives, which is largely it's basically a product of the absence of a parent. So when you see some people, you discover that most of the things that they do is because that parent's figure in their lives is lacking. Might be there physically, but really, in the real sense of the word, are they really doing what they ought to be doing as a parent? Okay? Consider your ability to love and nurture that child. When I say love and nurture that child, I'm not saying spoil the child. I'm not saying spoil the child, because sometimes we confuse love with over pampering, and then we over pamper our kids and tend to push them to the edge of being spoiled. Okay? While you love, your ability to love, you must also be able to create a balance between the two. So you're showing love, you're showing affection. At the same time, you must be able to put in a clear divide. You must be able to put in some structure in place so that the child does not tilt beyond, in quote, the love that you are showing, towards a tendency of being spoiled, over pampered, and then becoming something else in the society. So that's something that everyone that desires to be a parent should should pay attention to. Have that at the back of your mind. So this is what I want to do every time and anytime you decide that, okay, I think now is the time for me to be a parent. I want to be a parent. I want to be a parent. One of the first things you need to ask yourself is, do I have the ability to provide this child with a nurturing environment? Is this something I can do? I cannot answer that question honestly. I would recommend that you hold off that idea of being a parent. Another thing that you want to also provide for that child is safety. Safety. The world out there is already unsafe as it is. So it is important that as a parent, you make sure that where you are raising your child is a safe place. I remember one of the few times that I've visited the hospital, one of the things that they would ask you is, oh, are you living in a safe place? Is it safe? Is your home safe? Is there domestic violence? Are you prone to domestic abuse? Are you prone to yada, 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 And when I think about it, I'm wondering, what is it? Is it just me, or do these people ask everybody? And when I asked a few of my friends that are in that line of work, they said yes, it's something that they basically ask everybody, because they're trying to make sure that you're safe. And if you're not, if they can provide an environment where they can remove you and take you to safety. The same way, your child must be able to remove him or herself from an unsafe environment outside and come into a home that is safe. So if your home is unsafe, outside is unsafe, then where does this child go to enjoy the safety required to be groomed and raised as a responsible adult? So it's important that as parents we think about that before we decide to bring a child into our world. Is this world that I'm living in, is it safe enough? And when I mean world, I'm not saying the general world. I'm talking about your own cocoon right now, your own safe space. Is it safe enough for your child? Is it safe enough to raise that child? Now, when you can answer that question positively, then you know that, okay, perhaps I might be able to raise this child in a good environment. Another thing you want to do is also encouragement. You want to be able to be a solid support to your child. You want to be able to offer everything that child needs to thrive. Everything that the child needs to blossom into a beautiful adult. You want to be able to offer support. You want to be able to offer praise. So when your child is doing exceptionally well, flaunt it. Be loud. Tell your child you're doing so well. I'm so proud of you. Children thrive on praise. And that's why sometimes I have attended a few parenting classes and they will say that rewards are very good, Too much rewards, of course, is bad, but rewards are a good system to encourage and affirm good behavior. So you want to encourage your child. You want to be praiseful. You want to say, oh, you're doing so well. You've been of the best behavior this week. I celebrate what you've done. I'm grateful for you. You want to celebrate everything that they've done. It's important that you have that. It's important that you have that and not just be like, oh yeah, you're supposed to do it anyway. I did it when I was your age. No, it's not a time to show off what you did and didn't do when you are that child's age. Now is the time for you to look at that child and say, you're doing extremely well and I am grateful. I am thankful for who you are. The truth is, sometimes the child may decide not to behave well, right? And that's a concern for you as a parent. So some of these things are things that we have to learn to do when we make up our minds to be a parent. So when you're saying that I want to be a parent, are you stingy with praise? I think that's the best way to put it. Are you stingy with praise? Are you one of those people that you struggle to give people accolades? This is what they've done. You don't just know how to acknowledge it or to celebrate what you've done. It's important to think carefully now if you want to go the route of birthing children. Then positive learning and development. You want to be able to raise your child and be able to provide that positive learning. positive learning and development in all areas of their life. So we're looking at you're willing to have an open communication with your child, just like in workplaces where people push forward an open door communication. You want to be able to have that open communication with your child. You want your child to be able to tell you anything. You want to be that parent that your child is not afraid to share. You want to be that parent that if anything goes wrong anywhere, the first person that child wants to call is mommy or daddy, not XYZ friend or WYA colleague or something. You want to be the first person that they will call. You want to have that relationship with that child where talking to you is not a struggle. And then you want to actively listen. This is probably something that would be ongoing as you step into your role as a parent, especially as your children evolve through their different stages of growth. So the time they are babies, infants, they develop to toddlers, child, and then they become perhaps they become a teen, and they become young adults, and then adults in their own right, and they're, you've released them, they are good enough to run themselves by themselves. Active listening is something that you learn consistently on the go. It's not something that you go into parenting with and say, I already know it. However, you must prepare yourself to be that parent that would actively listen. Sometimes growing up, I think that our parents, do they actively listen? I don't think so. Sometimes they hear only what they want to hear. So they are in that space where you're saying something and they already have, I think before you even finish a sentence, they already have an idea of what you're trying to say. So they are not even waiting for you to land. They will just cut you short in the middle. This is not, we don't do that in this house. This is, but it's good to just give your child the opportunity to talk. Let that child articulate him or herself. This is what is going on, mommy. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. Let them finish, okay? And when they are done, because you're raising them, because you already have an open communication, and because you're trying to affirm positive learning and development in your house, after actively listening, then you bring in your wealth of experience and knowledge, okay? That is why you are a parent. But it's important that you listen first. You don't cut them. Because at the end of the day, when they notice that, when I talk to my parents, they don't listen, then they will just keep whatever it is that they are going through to themselves. And it's really to their detriment, and perhaps to the detriment of the family, because then you do not know what is going on, and you don't know if there is something that you need to address immediately, or if there is something that you need to put a stop to now before it festers, before it becomes something that later you cannot even contain. So it's important that as parents, that active listening, open communication is an ongoing thing. It's something we're learning. It's something that we're consistently doing. Another thing is modeling desired behavior. I was reading how did I forget that book? It's a book on parenting, actually, and the lady was saying something about how children learn, and it's probably something that most of us are familiar with. So as someone who is desirous of being a parent, if you want to be a parent, this is something that you need to put in place. You have to model the behavior that you want your child to learn. Recently, I started putting that into practice. So I started telling my children that you'll have a specific screen time. You will not watch TV on certain days. You won't watch TV on weekdays. You can watch on weekends, but we'll have, kind of like a structure. And I remember one of those weekdays, they came back from school and they were, I was watching TV. And my son is very vocal. So it was like, you're watching, mommy. And she was like, but you said we couldn't watch on weekdays, but you're watching. I'm like, right. I'm like, that is true. Really, I did say that we will not watch TV on weekdays. And it was like, but you're watching. And then you tell us that we can't watch on weekdays. So I modified myself a little bit. I modified what I used to do. And then I also removed watching TV on weekdays from my schedule. Not that there's time to even watch anyway, but I just deliberately took it out of my schedule. I deliberately took it out. So not when I'm washing plates, not when I'm not doing dishes and watching TV, I'm not cooking and watching TV. I just deliberately took that off. Just so that when I'm telling them that we don't watch TV on weekdays, it's not like mommy only tells us what to do. She doesn't do it. So modeling the kind of behavior you want them to show, to replicate is very important. If you want to raise children that eventually become very strong believers, you want to make them see you pray. You want to make them see you study the word. You want to make them see you engage in activities that are, in line with your belief, in line with scripture. You want to make them see it, not just verbally telling them and not showing that behavior. So there's a difference between do as I say and do as I do. Most times children tend to do as I do than do as I say. So it's important that we're as intending parents or people that are intending to go into this hood called parenthood, that some of these things. These are some basics that you need to put in place before you jump in. Another thing is also fostering independence. One thing that I have learned over the years is that African parents generally tend to help their children do everything. I have done a bit of comparison between some of the children that are raised by Africans and the children that are raised by some other cultures. I will not put a tag to it. And there's a huge gap. Our children are struggling to lace their shoes as toddlers. They are struggling to take their plates to the kitchen. They are struggling to load the dishwasher. They are struggling to do all of these minor things. Now, when you compare them to their counterpart, those people can do it. I remember taking my child the first time, taking them to school, and I got there and they were like, oh, take off your shoes, change to your indoor shoes, put off your jacket, da da da. It was so fast. My son was like, he didn't even know the first things to do. So I had to stay, help him with his shoes, help him with his bag. And they were like, oh, he can tie his shoes. Oh, he can take off his shoes. Oh, he can put on his jacket instead. Oh, he can do this. I said he can. He just needs a bit of time. I had to tell him, oh, no. He actually can. It's just that the instruction, they were just too many at once. So he can. He just needs a bit of time, But unlike the other guys, they were quick. They were doing it. Like the way they teach their children to be independent is something that as a parent you must learn to instill into your child. So as you're going through this journey, as you decide to go in, if you're not in, as you decide, if you're in, some of these things are things that you need to start putting in place, learning to teach them to be independent, learning to teach them that mommy is not going to be around forever. Daddy is not going to be around forever. There are things you need to know how to do by yourself, for yourself, teaching them independence. Then it's important also that you do not leave the education of your child into the hands of teachers alone. That's something that we also do as a parent. On both sides of the divide, intending, not intending, wherever you are on the divide, the education of your child is your responsibility. Yes, there are teachers, there are instructors, but primarily primarily you decide what your child learns. You decide all that your child needs to know. That decision is yours to make. So you must know how to navigate that. Okay, you must not say that, oh, I am extremely busy, I can't do this. Oh, this child goes to school, it's okay, the school is doing the best they can, I'm doing the best I can at home. You need to do more than that. You need to be there consistently. Educating your child is your responsibility. What they learn is your responsibility. So you must be on top of your game. You must be looking through their notes, their backpack. What are you doing in school today? Where are you today? I know that for people with teenage children, it might be a bit challenging. Teenagers can be tough. They can be tough. But it's still important. You are still the parent, so it is still your job. You are the parent, and we must never let these children turn the tables and flip the roles. Most times, because parents are trying not to be overbearing, like they would describe us as, we end up letting these children flip the roles. Then you're wondering, are you the parent or I'm the parent? Because then they begin to dictate, this is what I want to do and this is not what I want to do. So it is important that you stay on top of your game. You are the parent, you call the shots, they don't call the shots. Yes, you have an open door communication. Yes, you are actively listening to them, but ultimately you call the shot. Only you call the shot. Now let's look at let's consider emotional support that you need to provide for the child. That's another criteria. That's something that you need to learn. That's something you need to know how to do. Be emotionally available. Be emotionally supportive for that child. Learn empathy. If you're not somebody that can empathize with somebody, go and learn it. Go and learn how to empathize, because your children will come with whatever it is and they need a parent that would empathize with them. They need a parent that will acknowledge their feeling. So it's not, is that why you're crying? What is the problem? So just that small thing, that's why you're crying. Why can't you? They need a parent that can say, okay, I understand that this made you feel this way. It shouldn't make you feel this way, but I do understand that it made you feel this way. It's important to be able to acknowledge that feeling. It's important to be able to empathize with that child. That's something that is very important that we need to learn. You need to also learn to validate their feelings. So while you're empathizing with them, validate their feelings. Tell them that this, your feelings are valid, really. And when I say validate their feelings, I'm not saying that when they're doing something wrong, you validate it just because you want to show empathy and show them that, oh, I'm emotionally supportive. That's not where we're going. We're just saying that for the things that they go through, these are things that you need to be able to put in place. These are things that you need to be able to do for them. You also need to respect them. Respect their space. Sometimes, especially as they grow older. Of course, I don't think you need to respect a 2-year-old space. Maybe you do though. But as they grow older, then they need their space. As they transition from child to teen, that's when they're beginning to understand what's going on in their body, everything. So sometimes they need the space. You can give them a little, not too much, because you still need to understand what exactly they are doing before you suddenly wake up and discover a completely different child on your hands. Those are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. Becoming a parent is not it's hard work. It's not a walk in the park, like I would always say. It's extremely difficult. It's time consuming. It's strenuous. Every adjective possible I would use to describe parenting. So when you decide that this is a line that I want to toe, you must make up your mind that you are ready to give it all that it takes. All that it takes. And when I say all that it takes, I'm talking about being actively involved in parenting. So, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, um, the fact that you can birth a child doesn't make you a parent, okay? The fact that you have the genetic makeup to carry a child and be a mom and be a dad, doesn't mean that you can be a parent. So it's important, absolutely crucial, right, that you know that parenting is hard work. It requires you to commit time. It requires your total involvement. So when you look at it clearly, you need to ask yourself, can I give the time required to be a parent? Do I have that luxury of time? Because sometimes people become parents and they're like, oh, I don't have time, I'm so busy. You cannot be that busy not to be a parent. Okay? So one of the things that you know that you must create time for when you decide to journey into parenthood, quality time. You have to have time for this child. You have to know that you must create time. You must spend quality time with your child. So when they say, oh, I want to go to the playground, I'm not saying go every day, but as much as you can, be available to go. You must be involved in their lives, whatever it is. That you must not be too busy to listen to them. You must not be too busy to give them the attention that they require to thrive. You are for that purpose, not only their parent. You're like a mini god in their lives. Okay, so you must make sure that you have that time to be available and to do everything for them. Being present is also an aspect of it, an aspect of availability, an aspect of having time, an aspect of being consciously present in their lives. You must also be able to reach out and seek support. Get resources that are necessary for your child to thrive. What do you notice that this child would need? These are things that you need to carefully consider. And like I said, parenting is not it's not a mince meal. It's not something. It's not a slice of cake, like people would say. It's not something you just wake up and say, I think I'm going to be a parent today. You have to carefully consider, do I have all this? Do I have all this to give to that child? Can I do it? So if somebody asks me now, and I have a child, I have a toddler, and they say, oh, you have to be here at so and so time. Do I have that? Can I create that time to be there? Can I create that time to be available for that child? Now, if you can answer these questions affirmatively, if you know that you can make these provisions, then I celebrate you. You're on your journey to being an amazing parent. Okay? I'm going to continue this discussion in our next episode. And I'm going to be talking about scriptural points, scriptural perspective, and looking at what scripture says in terms of parenting. We're just going to look at it, and then we're going to look at the other aspects of, should everybody really be a parent? Because for believers would say that, because scripture says go into the world, reproduce, replenish the earth, that means I must be a parent. Not necessarily so. So you must look at yourself carefully and see, is this something that I can do? If you think it's not something that you can do, then I'd encourage you to take your time, search carefully, and know. Some people would say that being a parent is a calling. I don't know if I agree with that perspective, but I know that parenting draws from you. It takes a lot from you. And if you're not ready to give, that, then there is no point walking that path. There is no point towing that line. Just restrict yourself to where you are, and you still do amazing. Okay, so this is where we draw the curtain on this first episode of Should Everyone Be a Parent? I invite you to share your thoughts, share your comments. What do you think? Do you actually think that everybody should be a parent? Is that your thought? Would you say that as long as you can birth a child, then you're qualified to be a parent? Let me know in the comment section. Drop your questions, drop your thoughts. I'll be back to continue on this episode. So this episode might be longer than usual because I'm going to be talking about some of the different aspects of really should everybody be a parent. If you haven't subscribed, please jump on the train. What are you waiting for? Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, like us everywhere. We're there. And it's your girl, Francesca. Till I see you again, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.